Thank you, councillors. Thank you, everyone. For thousands of years, Aboriginal people have walked this land on their own country as custodians of their Earth Mother. Their unbroken relationship with the land and sea was and remains to be the centre of their lives. We acknowledge the Gunditjmara people who's of the past, present and the future. And with gratitude and respect, we recognise their continued relationship, custodianship and their bond to this land, sea, throughout the ages. Councillors, this afternoon I was made aware that Mr Ivan Mackenzie Senior has passed away. Commonly known as Perth, he worked for the former Shire of Glenelg for a number of years, like for 40 years, drove his grader around and did all those road culverts each day. He has passed away and we will acknowledge him in the normal manner for a long-standing staff member. Thank you, councillors. Recording meetings. For those present in the gallery today or attending this public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Council meetings may be live streamed and the Chief Executive Officer will enable a copy of the recording to the public. Any apologies for tonight? I think there are nil. There are no apologies. Confirmation of the minutes, councillors, held on the 27th of May. Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
I'll move the recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held on 27 May 2025 as circulated be confirmed.
Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Pepper. Any comments, Councillor McDonald?
No, thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Pepper. Those in favour? Carried. Item 5.2, record of councillor briefings. There is a motion there on page 5. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that council receives the records of councillor briefings held on 27 May 2025, 3 June 2025, 10 June 2025 and 17 June 2025.
Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Jowett. Councillor McDonald, any queries?
No.
Procedural? It's been moved by Councillor McDonald and second by Councillor Jowett. Those in favour? Carried. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillors and officers, any conflicts of interest for tonight's meeting? I will note nil. Thank you. Remember, if you come across a potential conflict of interest, please let me know. Activity reports from the 1st of May to the 31st of May. Councillor McDonald, would you like to start off with that one?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I had the privilege of attending 2 of the All Saints Deb Balls and was required to remember my Pride of Erin training from my school days to share that dance with the instructor. Just 2 beautiful evenings and just lovely to see those young people presenting to their families and to those in attendance. The other highlight for me was the Walk for Truth, the start of the Walk for Truth with Travis Lovett from the Europe Justice Commission presenting to those people that started the walk, and then obviously to see it finish on the television the other night with Travis presenting again, and some people from here actually attending that last day of the walk as well. Just, you know, speaking to their hopes for a positive way forward was a really, really special experience. The opening of the Nyamaring Gallery down at our Visitor Information Centre was another special evening, hearing from Auntie Claudette and a representative from the National Museum, and a special mention to Agostina Hawkins, our Cultural Collections Officer, that's been so heavily involved in organising that exhibition and that space as part of that centre for visitors and for locals to enjoy. The United Way Glenelg AGM was my first attendance at that, and just to see that force of like-minded people working for the community, gathering and discussing where they're at and moving forward was really inspirational as well. The reconciliation event at the Performing Arts Centre during Reconciliation Week was a wonderful day where our younger generation, really young children, standing up and sharing what reconciliation means to them and what that means in their lives and moving forward for our society. That was a wonderful experience, and the Portland Secondary College Band performing as well. I'll leave some others for some other people.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Angelino.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, another great month out in the community. We went to the Volunteer Awards night in Hayward, and that was a packed hall. And it's good to see so many different community groups and volunteers get their awards there. There was a couple for cancer, another great event for the Church of England in Hayward. People experienced surviving with cancer. Also, the Volunteer Awards in Portland is another great event. We went through that. And then I went lucky enough to go to the Hayward Rural Health. They had a luncheon for their volunteers. They have about 30 or 40 volunteers that come in every week and meet with some of the residents. And actually, I had enjoyed the Maggie Beer luncheon. Actually, she was on TV and she's done once a week. They have some of her chefs there, and they've taken up their diets with the Maggie Beer Foundation, and it's just fantastic on that day. Also through the reconciliation week as well, I walked with Karen and Robin for part of the way with Travis, and good to see him the other night. Actually did 502 kilometres. So through that event, and there's a lot of people that actually finished with the walk, and just many events. The one at SEMA with the schools, it was just a great event, and had Boyle. So thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Angelino. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I went to a lot of the same events as Councillor Angelino and Councillor McDonald, but I suppose as Chair, one there that's probably a bit different is the Railway Alliance meeting. I chaired that meeting during the month of May, and we've got our another meeting coming up in August where we've got a guest speaker from Infrastructure Victoria, and we've also got our policy statement ready. There's been a collection from all councils, so I'll share that with you if you haven't got it already, Madam Mayor and councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As with my fellow councillors, it was another packed month with a lot of events that we attended. A couple of big standouts for me was the Volunteer Week recognition events that we all attended. The one in Nelson was very well attended. It was great to meet with the volunteers from that community. The one in Hayward, the recognition event for volunteers there, and with a special note of the guest speaker, AJ Sonti, who is a very well-spoken young man. He's got big things ahead of him if he continues along the path that he is currently on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pepper.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, with the volunteer events at Hayward and Portland, I thought that the speaking was good. I enjoyed the guest speakers, so well done to them. Towards the end of the month, of course, with Reconciliation Week, I went to the opening event with Sherry Johnson here at the Portland Arts Centre. I thought that was very good, and then followed by going to the Julia Street to the creative space there, where our Deputy Mayor does a lot of volunteer work, does a good job, and that was a very good experience as well there. And I thought that they were really insightful and really good to go to, and I hope that everybody got a bit out of them because it was good. And well done to Robin McDonald, the Deputy Mayor, for the work that she does there too, volunteer work. Hope she doesn't get a service levy.
Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Councillors, look, there's a list of activities and functions that I've attended, and obviously being National Volunteer Month and also Reconciliation Week, there's a number there. I did attend a 100th birthday CEO, a young 100th. A young 100th, yes. But, you know, you get the pleasure of doing these things. I must say, councillors, that, you know, all the events that we attended this month, and the feedback I get from community members seeing the councillors working together and attending these functions is really valued by our community, and they value, you know, our volunteer recognition events. They also value, obviously, the reconciliation and the opening down at the Maritime Discovery Centre of the new display down there. Is certainly a big shout out to people to go down there and have a look at our new display, which is done in conjunction with the Australian Maritime Museum. But it's listed there, all of those activities, and I just sincerely thank councillors for their input throughout the last month. Councillors, there is a motion there on page 8 to note the reports. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation that council notes the councillor activity reports for 1st of May to the 31st of May 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor McDonald, are you seconding? Thank you.
Second that, Madam Mayor.
Anything to add, Councillor Carr?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. The motion has been put by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item number 8, councillors, there are no notices of motion. We'll move on to our management reports. Number 9.1 is the adoption of the Strastani Drainage Scheme Special Charge. Mr Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council proposed a special charge for this scheme as out for community consultation. At the end of the consultation period, there was 3 responses received, Madam Mayor. One in support of the scheme, one is a general comment about rates in particular, and another one sought further information, which has since been responded to. Madam Mayor, there is a recommendation there for Council to continue on with the proposal and undertake the special charge.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillor Noski.
Happy to move the motion in its entirety.
All right, thank you, Councillor Noski. Are there anybody seeking any clarification on this motion? No. Councillor Noski has moved. Seconder, Councillor Pepper. Any discussion, Councillor Noski?
I think it's been considered fairly carefully. This is a long-standing drainage scheme which is, as I understand it, responsible for 54,000 hectares becoming far more, 54,000 hectares becoming far more productive than they would if it wasn't in place. And those, the fee is charged to those people who have lands serviced by the drainage scheme, and council simply administers the fee for them. But there's a management committee which is made up of people who live in the area, and they organise and manage the whole thing. So our role is just one of collector of monies and payment through to them. I think it's a very good thing for council to do. I think it's a wonderful thing that the community has put in place this drainage scheme, and it continues to work, and all of those people living in that area benefit from the improvement to the land created by it.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Councillor Pepper.
Yes, Madam Mayor, look, the committee have recommended this themselves, and so they know the lay of the land, they know what they're getting from it, so I think that it's just up to us to move it.
Administer it for them. Thank you. Are there any other comments, councillors? If not, I will move it. Councillor Noski has moved and Councillor Pepper has second. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 9.2, the adoption of the revenue and rating plan, please, councillors. There's a recommendation there on page 18. Oh, sorry. Mr Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The revenue and rating plan is a local government requirement to be done by the 30th of June following the election of a new council. The revenue and rating plan outlines the income that council requires to deliver its services. The plan had been put out for community consultation. It fairly is a difficult concept for the general public to grasp. We did get 8 submissions, majority of which, Madam Mayor, was simply pretty much around the budget and around rates rather than the income. The plan does outline 10 objectives for council over the next 4-year period. Probably highlight one is that over the next 12 months for council to review its differential rating structure, which itself will be the subject of a community consultation process.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Any councillors seeking any clarification on the plan itself? If not, there's a recommendation on page 18, please. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation that Council 1 acknowledges and considers the feedback received through the community consultation process for the draft revenue and rating plan 2025, and 2 adopts the revenue and rating plan 2025 without amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Jowett. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, very important to document how we plan on getting our revenue, and this also captures our rating plan. I'm just moving to the page right now. It continues at 100% for general land, 100% for commercial and industrial, 70% for the primary production land, and 50% for cultural and recreational land. Which, recognises the primary production sector and the importance that they have to our Shire as a whole.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Jowett.
I have nothing further to add.
Nothing further? If there's nothing further, councillors, I'll put it to the vote. It's been moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Jowett. Those in favour? Carried. Councillors, the adoption, 9.3, the adoption of the 2025-26 fees and charges. Mr Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the fees and charges linked to the previous report being the revenue and rating plan. Fees and charges represent some 7% of council's income. Each year the fees and charges are reviewed against a number of factors, including full cost recovery, service delivery. The fees and charges were put out for consultation in conjunction with the budget document, which is talked about later in tonight's meeting. Extracting some of the feedback that was specifically about the fees and charges from the budget responses, excluding those associated with the FOGO proposal. There were 4 responses specifically into fees and charges. General comments about fees being too high, and there were some in regards to the footpath fees, which are actually being waived as well. However, the charge will still show as a charge on the schedule, and the grazing permit fees. The documents presented there for councillor consideration.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillors, any discussion or clarification on the document before us? Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I was looking at the airport section, Madam Mayor, and we charge for airport landing fees for commercial aircraft. I noticed that there's no fee for private aircraft. Is there any explanation, Madam Mayor, as to why that is the case?
Certainly. Mr Hall, Mr Moyne.
I can take the question.
Thank you, Mr Moyne.
Through you. Thank you for the question, Councillor Carr. The basis for not charging for recreational use at the airport has been, and the fees associated with that is associated with the historical decision made by council to not charge for recreational uses at the aerodrome. So that's something that has been identified recently and potentially moving forward as part of aerodrome planning and budget preparation moving ahead. We need to review that previous decision and look at further charges at the aerodrome for usage.
Thank you. I noticed that so there was a council decision to remove or waiver the grazing and droving permits. What's the basis of recommending to put that back into the fees and charges, Madam Mayor, for next year?
Thank you. Mr Hall.
Madam Mayor, so the fees and charges was put up last year, and I think there was a decision for council to waive the fees and charges for that year. That certainly wasn't ongoing. The recommendation is in the report is for those grazing permits to be considered under a hardship policy on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Anything further, Councillor Carr?
No.
Mr Moyne, do we know when
You want to deal with?
the no fees for recreational aircraft was introduced to council?
Thank you for the question, Madam Mayor. I believe it was early 2000s, 2001, but I would need to confirm that date and we'll dig out that information further.
It's a long time ago. All right. Any further discussion, councillors? Yes, Councillor Carr.
No, I'd like to move an amended motion.
Amended motion. Thank you, Councillor.
Madam Mayor. So the amended motion would be 1, 2 and 3 are the same.
Right.
Right. It is amended fees and charges, but there'll be a fourth dot point, and that's the fee code LL028 permit application fees / application to graze / drove permit be waived for the 2025-2026.
25-26 budget.
So, does that make sense?
Yep, that's fine. Councillors, clear on that? Councillor Noski? Seconding that? Yep. Thank you. So moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Noski. Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, the fees and charges are pretty straightforward, and I think the percentage increases and the cost recovery increases that the officers have put forward make a lot of sense, other than obviously the grazing and droving permit fees. I think we had about 16 of those last year, and there's no doubt we're in a green drought. We missed out on autumn again, and if we can do anything to help our farmers feed their stock over the next 12-month period, might also reduce some of our roadside mowing costs.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know what will happen. Councillor Noski, would you like to respond?
No need to add.
With that. There's no further comments from councillors. I'll put the motion moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, we'll move on to 9.4, which is the Glenelg Shire Declaration of Rates and Service Charge for 25-26. Mr Hall.
Madam Mayor, every year Council needs to declare how much it intends to raise from general rates, municipal charges, service rates and service charges, and whether that rate of application will be by a uniform rate or a differential rate. This report outlines the recommendation for Council to declare raise an amount of $35,817,660 total rates and charges, including curbside collection for the period 25 to 26. It represents a 3% increase in line with the Fair Go rates cap. Once again, there is no municipal charge in the Glenelg Shire Council, and the application is again by differential rate, as highlighted by Councillor Carr earlier, with 100% for general land, 100% for commercial industrial, 70% for primary production and 50% for cultural and recreational.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillors, any discussion or clarification being sought? Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I'd just like to ask, do the rates and charges include the state government's fire services or emergency services volunteer fund levy at all?
Mr Hall.
No, Councillor, they do not.
Thank you for clarifying.
So, Mr Hall, just for clarification on that, we collect that. Could you just explain that perhaps to the council, how we collect it and it's passed on?
essentially say the state government levy is collected via councils under the current fire services levy, soon to be changed to emergency services and volunteer levy. Council collects it and then passes that those funds collected straight back to the state government.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillor Carr.
I suppose just so if we did endorse the recommendation, we're not endorsing the fire services levy or emergency services volunteer fund collection.
No, that's right.
Just triple checking.
Just triple checking. No.
No further questions?
Sorry.
Questions? There's no further questions from councillors. I'd like to move an amended motion.
Certainly.
The amended motion is as the existing 3 points are written, with the change that the amount that we collect through total rates and charges, including annual curbside collection charges, be reduced by 880,000 from 35,817,660 to 34,937,694.
And point 2 and 3 remain as tabled
exactly
on paper.
Yep.
Councillors, is there a seconder for that amended motion?
Yeah, I'm going to second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Councillor Noski.
Madam Mayor and councillors, this is a really fraught issue which I'm concerned about in terms of the impression that we give to the community. If this is all about the decision, which is a very correct decision, I believe, that $880,000 in costs that have been identified in the transfer station operations for the processing of waste materials picked up through the curbside collection system be transferred to the charges applied to those people who receive curbside collection pickup. And that's an entirely appropriate thing to do, because those 8,770 odd properties that enjoy curbside collection pickup should meet the full costs of that service. But what I see is the fact that if ratepayers are looking quite objectively at what council is doing in 2024 and what we will do in 25-26, nothing has changed. In 2024-25, we picked up the waste from 8,770 properties. We processed it through the transfer stations. It was sent off to Stall and it was put into landfill in Stall. The cost of doing that were partly paid by the waste management charge and partly paid out of general revenue or rates. But everything was done. And in 2025 and 26, we rightly identified that $880,000 worth of work that is done in the transfer stations should be paid directly by those people receiving curbside pickup. And we have added to the cost of the curbside pickup. But from the overall perspective, ratepayers will see us doing exactly the same thing in 25-26 as we did in 24-25. They will see us collecting 880,000 more than we did last year to do exactly the same things. And then on top of that, we've of course put the rate cap limit on top of the general rates. And I think it is incumbent upon us as a council in a rate cap environment where we're supposed to be maintaining efficiencies to keep the call on the community within the rate cap amount. I recognise that the waste management charge is outside the rate cap, but we have shifted funds from within the rate cap into that area. And I believe it is only appropriate that we don't collect the 880,000 from ratepayers which we have loaded on to those 8,700 ratepayers who get curbside collection charges. The risk, from my perspective, is that in 2022-23...
Time. Is someone just wishing to speak against the motion? Councillor McDonald.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand your concern, Councillor Noski, but in fact, could I just ask for confirmation that the ratepayers won't be paying twice as much for their rate collection, that they will be only paying for the cost of that collection, and in fact, because council has been covering that cost from general revenue for a very long time, it means that that money has not been able to be spent on other things that the community may be looking for us to spend it on.
That's correct, Councillor McDonald, and this council made the decision to have full cost recovery for our domestic waste services, and that's how the budget has been defined for tonight's paper for this year. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I did pick up on a few points during Councillor Noski's discussion, and I don't believe we're doing the same thing, Madam Mayor. We are introducing FOGO in April.
That's right.
So there is some differences there, and there will be, more money to do maintenance, and our maintenance budget has increased. So, we can channel that into roads and buildings and infrastructure, parks and gardens, etc. So I'm not comfortable with that statement that we're doing exactly the same. I think we are doing more, and we intend to do more with those dollars. And what it does do is it makes sure that those who use the service are paying for the service. Under the existing structure, Madam Mayor, the primary production sector is propping up, the waste, the cost of the municipal waste collection and disposal process. So hence why I was supportive of the motion when it was put to council at our last meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Pepper, as the seconder, did you want to make any comment?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's an issue that I've just been sort of mulling over for a while now. I've got some different perspectives on it, and that's why I just wanted to get all the information out there from councillors so I can make a decision of my own on it, Madam Mayor. Thank you, but I think that I find it interesting what Councillor Noski's raising, and so
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillors?
Can I close in that case, since someone has spoken against
You've got 2 minutes.
Yep. I'm not allowed to introduce new stuff, so I won't.
No, you're not.
But I just point out, Michael, that this is irrelevant to FOGO. The FOGO charges are going on top again for the waste management charge people. So the costs of FOGO the extra costs of FOGO will be collected from those people.
Councillor Noski, you're speaking to your amendment, please. That's what we're given time.
I am speaking to the point that Councillor Carr made.
Yep.
And the issue with primary producers propping up the people receiving waste management curbside collections, I agree fully. That's why I'm happy for the 880,000 to be shifted across from our general operating area to a direct collection from those people who receive curbside charges, curbside collections. But this isn't going to stop the fact that the people who weren't paying 880,000 that was being used for curbside, they're now going to be paying 880,000 for other things. And that, I think, is outside the spirit of the rate cap legislation. Hence the reason I moved the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, the amended motion, which includes removing the 880,000 from the amount there in item 1, with the balance of the motion remaining the same, has been moved by Councillor Noski and seconded by Councillor Pepper. Those in favour? Those against? 5 to 2.
I have the division, please.
Yes, Stuart will call for a division. Those in favour, stand please. Thank you. Those against, please rise. Thank you. I declare the amended motion has been lost. 5 to 2. Councillors, there's a motion there on tonight's paper, please. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll move the recommendation in its entirety.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Chowett, I think you just won that one. Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think the discussion's really been had in terms of any concern about the actual amount. The division of the general rate amounts is very clear and fair, I believe, and point 3, the 100% concession rate for the nominated parcels at the Dutton Way remaining undeveloped will be a discussion for, I think, a future situation.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Jowett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As everyone can see, we've had a lot of discussion about this in this chamber tonight, as well as going back quite a while about this this charge and what we are planning to do for the next 12 months. It hasn't been an easy decision, but I think that we are headed in the right direction with what we are planning to do for the next 12 months.
Thank you, Councillor Jowett. Are there any other comments from any other member? Councillors, we've been, looking at this for the last 6 months and developing our budget, and this just, forms part of that with the 3% rate cap increase. And certainly this just confirms, what the charges will be for rates and curbside and what those percentages and confirming the differentials, etc. So I'm very comfortable where we've landed with this. The motion has been moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Jowett. Those in favour? Those against? Call for a division?
No, don't
No,
think so.
that's fine. The motion is carried 5 to 2. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll move on to 9.5, which is the adoption of the Glenelg Shire budget 25-26. Mr. Hull, you're busy tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As all the earlier reports have an impact to the budget, the budget document, the draft was released for community feedback at the April council meeting. There was 48 feedback responses received. Majority of them, I think 33 in fact, were in relation to the food organics, green organics component of the budget. The document also outlines some of the direction from council that we've touched on, the introduction of food organics, 250k for Hayward Pool funding project, 140k for major projects scoping, and a further funding of 250k for the new council plan year 1 once adopted. Again, it has a significant operational and capital works, but highlighted predominantly by a lot of roads at parks and gardens. From the feedback, there's been a couple of minor amendments to the draft. It was circulated to the public. So following councillor discussion, there's been a further $21,000 allocated to iconic events and a further $80,000 added to the tourism marketing component. In addition, Madam Mayor, from the draft budget, which had a forecast position of a surplus of just over $500,000. We do now have some $2.1 million of capital works, which is not going to be completed by next week. That will now be carried forward into the 25-26 year. whilst this will result in that 500k turn into a $1.6 million deficit for the year, it does mean that the cash position as of the 30th of June this year will increase from 2.7 to $4.8 million. So it's simply a timing with the $2.1 million. And the forecast cash position for council based on this budget as of the 30th of June 2026 will be $3.2 million, which is still low compared to a capital reserves process, but there has been many very appropriate, and I know councillors have struggled with this, wanting to include so much more expenditure in the budget than what it permits to. And I think the decision for councillors has been not necessarily what to include, but what to not include. There's so many projects and options with merit simply can't all be fitted in. But the budget is the culmination of some 6 to 7 months' work with councillors. Started pretty much from the induction back in November last year and was presented for councillor debate and consideration.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillors, is there any discussion or any clarification sought on any points in the budget for tonight's meeting? Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to make the comment that during the consultation with communities, it was really pleasing to see that right throughout the Shire, our community was very much on the same page, looking for walking paths, looking for bike paths, perhaps a response from the COVID years of needing to get out and really improving their lifestyle in terms of getting out and having those facilities around them. So I think what we've tried to do in the budget is to respond to what the community has asked us to do. So looking to look for grants available to help us push that as far as we can to benefit the whole community right across our Shire.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I was also reading through the submissions and we've got an opportunity there, Madam Mayor, on the education piece with FOGO. A lot of the submissions related to FOGO, and I think we've got to make it very clear that it's mandated by the state government and it's got to be put in place by June 2027. And it's also, a lot of the responses we got appeared to be from the rural sector who won't be issued a FOGO bin. They won't even have the opportunity to have one, and I'm pretty sure they may not need one. They've got plenty of space, so there's a bit of education there that we'll need to do. Can I ask a question about the budget, please?
What was that?
Can I ask a question now about the budget?
Yeah, sure.
Good. Look, I did pick up on the point there. It is difficult to decide to put everything in, given the dollars that we've got, and this council did make a very tough decision 18 odd months ago to transition away from hack services, which should have reduced our operational expenses by 2.5 to 2.7 million. Very difficult for me, Madam Mayor, to see the step change down. We've just continued to year on year increase our operational expenses. Is there any way that they could explain to me where that step change occurred and why, or where that money that we made that decision ended up for us to be in a position we are with this particular budget in terms of our OPEX expenditure?
Okay. David? Mr Hall, are you able to respond to that?
I can, Madam Mayor. Look, there's not one simple location that says money from here is gone there. Each year the expenses of a council increase in their operational obligations. It's basically the expenses increase greater than what the rate cap increase occurs. So it's a challenge for council to make savings just to deliver the same service as we provided there. Now, we are aware that there are some contracts and some services that are predominantly gone up in increase over the period of time, but you can't necessarily allocate that is where the aged care costs are now showing. It's simply not quite as simplistic as that. So the general response is across the board, the council costs to deliver the services it provides have gone up, and each year that will go up, and council has the ongoing obligation to continue to look at how it can refine its services, to make those hard decisions on what services it can continue to provide and which it can't in this fiscally demanding time.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Councillor Carr, happy with that?
Thank you.
At the moment. Councillors? Councillor Pepper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I was wondering with the draft budget about the 544,000 that went to this budget to 1.66 million, but thanks to Mr Hull for the clarification on that. Can I just make a statement, Madam Mayor? I like the budget, and I like the way that there's been, through our community talks, there needed, you know, like at Dartmoor and Nelson, there was, they expressed their concerns about some footpaths. The budget's got that scoping in there for that to be looked at. The Caston Sale Yards is in there again, which is a nice little subject of mine. And I'm also pleased, like with the primary producers, there's a bit of levelling there. And as a result, like there's going to be that, well, everything goes on, you know, your capital improvement, as you know. So, but I think that overall the rates on the primary producers are going to be down a bit, and I like to, or the same. So I'm happy about that. I just want to also say, Madam Mayor, that to anybody out there, that council has got a hardship policy for any of these primary producers, and that certainly look into it. And there's just one other thing that I've been talking about, the 3.5 million. But in my understanding, like I don't think that's been dealt with for me at this point of time. That I'd like to see it. We're waiting on some documents, some information to come, and so therefore I'm happy enough to adopt this budget. But I will be raising that come 1st of July. I still will be raising and still wanting to follow up on more information and more clarification so that we can all be on the same page with the 3.5 million. And Madam Mayor, can I congratulate Mr Hole and his staff for the work that they've done on the budget, and I think it's pretty good.
Thank you, Councillor Pepper. Councillors, there's actually a motion here to move the budget. Councillor Carr? More questions. More questions. Councillor Carr.
Madam Mayor, look, I'd like to ask a question about the multi-purpose round ball facility and whether there's anything in the budget to continue work in that space, which is a priority project of the existing council 4-year plan.
Mr Moyne, would you like to take that question?
Yes, there is an allocation, so there's some further work that will be done next financial year with project planning allocation in the budget of $100,000 to undertake a further review of that project and the facility moving forward, to look at the feasibility moving forward and to position council in the best position moving forward for project planning and advocacy.
Thank you, Mr Moyne. Councillor Carr, you satisfied? Councillor Noski.
I just have a question. Council was approached in September of 2023 by Bayview College seeking the creation of a disabled car park in that area of Bentinck Street, which services both Bayview College and the Catholic Church. We haven't found a way to do that work until now, and I'm wondering whether in the various sections of infrastructure spending that are in the Capital Works program, can I ask if that project has been included?
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Mr Moyne.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. No, there isn't a direct allocation in the Capital Works program for that work itself. Officers have worked with Bayview College over a number of years now, preparing designs and looking at options for the delivery of accessible car parking proximate to the school itself. And the recent consultation and information with Bayview College is that council officers will work with the school moving forward around funding opportunities, or the school has an opportunity to fund those works themselves.
Thank you, Mr Moyne.
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure that we can wait for funding opportunities to arise. I'm informed that one of the school community members who uses a wheelchair was trying to access her car through a...
Councillor Noski, with all due respect, this has been discussed at council and we have had a number of updates on this particular project, and Mr Moyne has said that it is being considered and that the administration is discussing it with Bayview College. This is not the time to get these types of projects up. It's been through the processes, and it's quite clear that this is being discussed with Bayview College and it will go through those processes. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Any discussion? Councillor Angelino.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to thank the people that voted for me. It's been a bit of a learning curve, and it's been very challenging. I mean, people think it's easy, but it's not as easy as you probably think when you get into a new group of people. We've got a great group of people, great council staff behind, and the community. And it is hard when you get out there that people want a lot of things, but as I understand, we've only got a certain amount of stuff, the same as they do at home. But hopefully we can get more for the people and we can give them more support in other ways as well as finance. So hang in there, we're doing our best. And we'll continue to do our best on the council and the staff. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Angelino. Councillor Carr.
Probably happy to move the motion if there's no further questions.
Thank you. Waiting for somebody. Thank you, Councillor Carr. And what's the motion?
30. All right. Whether the council, one, acknowledges and considers the 48 feedback responses received on the draft 25-26 budget, and 2, adopts the 25-26 budget as amended, prepared in accordance with section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020, provided as an attachment to this report.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Joe, you seconding?
I'd like to second that motion, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, do you wish to speak?
Look, Madam Mayor, I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak to the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Thank you, councillors, and look, I thank you. It's been a really great last 6 to 7 months since we all came together as a new council, and it's been a very steep learning curve, as Councillor Angelino, Councillor Pepper know so much information, and as Mr Hull said before, you know, we started straight off our induction and straight into the preparation of the budget. And look, I really just wanted to thank each of the elected members for their diligence in, you know, attending the meetings, doing the reading and the research, and being prepared to be at the table and ask those tough questions. To the CEO and the staff, you know, thank you sincerely for all the information that you've been able to bring through, all the time that you've dedicated, time and time again, answering the questions of councillors and, you know, providing some really valuable resources for us so that we can make the best informed decisions for our community moving forward. So thank you, Madam CEO, and to your staff and to all your staff that sit behind your directors as well. Councillors, we are introducing the new FOGO in this financial year. It's something that under the Circular Economy Act with the Victorian Government we are obliged to do by 2027. So waste, I think somebody mentioned before, waste is such a huge component for us, and as a large rural shire sitting over of the furthest away from Melbourne on the South Australian border, the cost for us to transport our waste for disposal is extremely expensive, and we will be looking at part of our budget also looks at the education, and if we can inform our community of ways to reduce the waste, if we can reduce our waste, we can reduce our overall cost. But there's some really good considerations in here. We do have, and the Glenelg Shire has an amazing road network of sealed and unsealed roads of over 2,800 kilometres. In our local roads, we've got 5.5 million allocated to our local roads. That is not the highways; they are not ours. These are local roads. And of course, another 4.4 million into renewal works on roads. We'll also be upgrading some of our planted equipment so we can undertake some of these works. But also there's a number of works there there's 2.6 million just to do our parks and reserves and maintain what Councillor McDonald said before was that livability that people are craving for, and certainly the services we need. And of course we've got funding in there for our youth services, and of course our wonderful community grants have been funded again this year. Councillors, look, there's so much within the budget that we've been discussing over the period of time, and also developing our council plan and had that engagement with our communities. So really valuable information that we've taken away. There's 250,000 in this year's budget to roll out and allocations and to support some of those new initiatives that will come out of the new council budget. So in thanking the staff, I also thank all the community members that came forward and attended our sessions, or came in online and filled in a survey, or took the time to write to us and tell us what they wanted to see specifically in their budget. So all in all, hand on heart, I believe that this is a really good budget for our community, which has really strong principles financially for the future, but also maintains those assets and provides those 100-odd services every day to our community members that rely on those services, whether that's children going to childcare or elderly members in our community that are provided different services. So, councillors, thank you. I'd open it up to any other councillor to make any comments. First of all, I'll go to the mover, Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. And look, it's a pretty exciting budget from the expenditure perspective, with 15 million in capital works, and it's great to see the Henty Street amenities. I know it's in there and it's already started, but been on the list for a long time.
Yep.
Haywood Pool has been on the list for a long time, and we're also going to do some more work on the round ball facility. So all exciting projects that the community's been asking for a very, very long time. There is a bit of a disclaimer though, and I will probably repeat, this council's got a bit of work to do in terms of controlling its expenses, because the cost of doing works, the cost of providing these services is going up quicker than rate cap. If we continue down the path we're currently on, we're going to need, it's not going to be a good path, Madam Mayor. So there's a bit of work to do over the next 6 to 12 months for this council to see what it can do from an expenditure control perspective whilst we continue to operate in a rate cap environment.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillors, Councillor Jarlett, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the staff for all the hard work they're putting to get this budget up into the current state that it's in, and my fellow councillors for the work they've put in to, first, for some of us new at this, to get their head around what is involved in a budget. As for the budget itself, it is a massive document. has it got everything in it that I would like to see? No, it hasn't. But I think it's a good basis, a good building block to build on for the next few years. And hopefully, if we can work together, we might be able to get it to where we all want it to be.
Thank you, Councillor Jarlett. Happy to take any other comments from the chat.
Thanks,
Councillor
Mayor.
McDonald.
I'd just like to make the comment that, the budget is the hardest document probably for council to get through, obviously every year, and it's a real juggling act. Some people don't use the library, some people don't go to other services, some people don't use those amenities, but we all use different things in different ways, and so it is a juggling act. And I'd also just like to speak to what Councillor Carr mentioned. And I know in terms of the round ball facility or a bigger dream facility for the town, that the staff have been looking at comparisons. And for those of you that in the community that have seen the facility in Mount Gambier, there is no rate cap in South Australia. So 11% on top of their rates goes a lot further than the 3% that we have in Victoria. So we just have to help our community understand those issues and help them realise that, patience and good planning through our staff is where we need to head.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. If there's no further councillors, I'll put them on. Councillor Noski.
Madam Mayor, having moved the amendment I did in the last item, it would be remiss of me not to, I guess, argue the case again. From my perspective, I appreciate the amount of work that's been put in and what I'm told is a lot more information that's been put through to councillors about the preparation during the preparation of this budget. But as Councillor Carr pointed out, he's failing. He can't understand where the 2.7 million that was involved in aged and community services, aged and disability services, has gone out of the cost structure. I think there's got to be a lot more information put to councillors for next year so that we can perhaps understand those issues and be comfortable with where the budget's at. But my concern is that I'm not sure the community can afford our continued increases rather than us finding ways to be more efficient. This year we are going to increase the call on ratepayers on top of the 3% rate cap by 730,000 for the FOGO bins and by a further 880,000 that's been transferred across to the waste management charge. So it's another $1.6 million that we're taking, or that we are calling on the community to fund. And I just don't think that it's the right time to be doing that. I fully accept the fact that we have to introduce FOGO. I fully accept that those people that are getting waste curbside pickup should be paying the full cost of that. But as I talked about in the last motion, I think that 880,000 should be reduced out of the rates after we had increased the last year's expenditure by the rate cap. And I'll be voting against the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Noski, any further comments? If not, I'll put the motion, which has been moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Jarlett. Those in favour? Those against? 6 to 1, the motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we'll move on to 9.6, which is the draft Victorian Transmission Plan Council submission. Mr Moyne.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Through you, this report presents a draft council submission on the draft Victorian Transmission Plan, which has been recently released by VicGrid for public consultation. The preparation of the transmission plan follows an extensive process undertaken by VicGrid now probably over 3 or 4 years in the early planning of transmission plan guidelines, land use assessments, engagement on community benefits programs, and the identification of renewable energy zones. A bit of a tongue twister there.
Yes.
A council submission has been prepared following an extensive review and having consideration to previous submissions made by council. With this submission prepared, raising specific comments on behalf of council regarding the future renewable energy interests within the Shire and issues relevant to the future growth, development and community prosperity within the Shire itself as well. It's important to point out the intent of the Victorian Transmission Plan is the designation of renewable energy zones by the Minister themselves, and this is really significant moving forward. And it's important for council to consider future development interests and the extent of those renewable energy zones. So the draft submission has been prepared for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Mine. Are there any clarification or any discussion? Councillor Noski.
Happy to move the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Noski, could you consider, there's a couple of minor amendments to go with that?
Yeah. So
could you please add that we...
I'm happy to.
Add that
happy to move
council adopts the Glenelg Shire Council submission draft Victorian Transmission Plan with amendments as discussed. Authorises the Chief Executive to release the submission on behalf of Council. And number 3, that we send copies of our submission to local members of Parliament.
I was actually going to be slightly more precise than that, but yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
Is that all right with you, Councillor Noski?
The motion is that Council adopts the Glenelg Shire Council submission draft Victorian Transmission Plan with the grammatical and terminology changes discussed earlier tonight, if that's okay.
That's fine.
2, authorises the Chief Executive to release the submission on behalf of Council, and 3, ensures that our submission is forwarded on to local politicians for their information.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Angelino. Councillor Noski, did you want to make a comment?
I'd just like to say that, again, this has been a very well-drafted submission that I thought's been very carefully thought through and raises all of the issues that I think councillors had themselves when we were briefed by Vic Grid on what they're proposing in their draft plan. There are significant issues that pose threats to this Shire in the future that are raised by this submission, and one hopes that it's properly considered by those making decisions about the implementation of the transmission plan.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Any other councillor wishing to make comment? If not, I'd like to make some comment. I thank Mr. Main and the CEO for putting this submission together based on our presentation from Vic Grid and our review of the Victorian Transmission Plan. Councillors, I see some really key things here. I mean, this council over the last 12, 18 months has made submissions to the Renewable Energy Plan, the Community Benefit Plan for Renewable Energy, and now the Vic Grid submission. And we find ourselves in a significantly disadvantaged position for renewable energy generation when this state government knows full well that we have a number of projects that are swinging off the projected outcomes that they pushed for. So it beggars belief for me, councillors, why we are not being included in the renewable energy zone, and that Glenelg has been basically omitted except for a little tiny bit in one little corner there. So, look, I will be watching this space very clearly, and I think that it's incumbent on us to make sure that our own local members are aware of our position and that they can perhaps advocate for us at government level. Councillors, if there's nothing further, the motion as amended, is everybody clear of the amended motion? The amended motion was moved by Councillor Noski and seconded by Councillor Angelino. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on. There's no urgent business that I'm aware of. CEO? No, nothing. Good. Question time and questions that were taken on notice. Councillors, there's one there that came through from Mr. Kevin Stark, and it came for our last meeting but was received after the authorised time of 12 noon on the Monday before the meeting. So it has been included in this month's meeting. Mr. Stark of Lake Mundy asked the following question. The state government imposed emergency services levy is going to cause much hardship for farmers in the Glenelg Shire, who are also the backbone of the CFA. In our case, we will incur a 250% increase from 2022 to 2025. In the same period, we have had a 45% increase in our rates. Farmers in the Shire are battling through the worst drought in living memory. What has the Glenelg Shire done to help? The removal of a roadside grazing charge is a pittance. We need rate relief. That is the biggest help you can give us, and councillors, it's up to you. So, councillors, as you know, we've really advocated strongly since back January earlier this year in relation to the changes to the fire services levy. And we don't believe that the changes are fair, and we will continue to lobby and express our deep concern to the Premier and any relevant minister. A further notice of motion was tabled in May around drought, requesting increased support from the state government for farmers, producers and suppliers who we know are experiencing extreme hardship due to the prolonged dry conditions. In relation to the emergency services tax, it is noted by this council that the state government has heeded some concerns raised by local government and the community and proposes to freeze those rates for this initial year for primary producers. For all ratepayers across the Glenelg Shire, like all councils, we have a hardship policy in place which provides options for any ratepayer facing significant financial stress, and I encourage anyone to come forward and have a discussion with council. Our second question, councillors, comes from Claire de Bruin from Cape Bridgewater, who is asking the following question. Having walked with Travis Lovett, the Deputy Commissioner of the URAC Justice Commission, and hundreds of others on the Walk for Truth, I now understand the significant role that Portland has in the colonisation of Victoria. I realise we need to acknowledge the past and move to the future together. I hear the Gunditjmara asking for some simple things to change. Does the council agree that a process to alter place and street names, monuments and plaques to better understand First Peoples' history of Portland is a good thing to do? If that is agreed, how will council put this process into motion? Thank you for your question, Claire. Look, I think as a council we acknowledge the complexities of this issue and are currently on a journey to better understand the significance of colonisation and the ongoing impacts of Aboriginal people in our Shire today. Given the large proportion of our councillor group are new to local government, Council has been working towards upskilling and increasing the awareness for all new councillors in Aboriginal affairs and what the history of our Shire really looks like, of which the URAC Justice Commission report, which is due at the end of the month, will support. We have an agreed plan with our Aboriginal partners around this work, which includes cultural awareness training on site and on country, participation in the URAC Commission Walk for Truth, and an opportunity for councillors to discuss and develop an understanding of a collective view and commitment to addressing monuments and other impacts on Gunditjmara people within the Glenelg Shire. Thank you, councillors. That is the two questions that we have received for tonight's meeting. Councillors, I'll move on to item number 12, which is confidential reports. Asking, we have a recommendation there on page 40.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. Seconder, Councillor McDonald. Those in favour. Carried. Thank you. That's the closure of the meeting for confidential, a confidential item. Thanks, Charlie. I'll talk to you tomorrow.